doing it and it seems different than you, that you're, to make sure that you don't think, oh, now we're live. Hi, everyone. I thought we were live like a minute ago. Maybe we were. So we're doing a show today on what it looks like when our spiritual gifts come in, and also, what it looks like, that it's so different for everyone. It's so different. And so when we are in spiritual development groups, we are listening. Here we are. When we are listening to incredible readers, incredible gifted mediums or whatever, and we're watching how their gifts seem to come in or how they express, like, I have an incredible friend that's a medium, Lana, that I've talked about. We were having personal conversation, and my dad, that doesn't normally come in for anyone, came in, and but at first she had other people, as she said, in the room. And then now for Nicole, it might not express like a room, who's also a medium. And her messages come, somebody's messages come in the right ear. That's not how my messages come in. So there's so many people who are newly really tapping into their gifts. And my thing is I hear the discouragement a lot in private sessions. And I can see how gifted somebody is through their chart. And so, just everybody is different. So we wanted to come on and talk today about, and hear from all of you, where do you think that you are blocked? Because sometimes it's not blocked. And how do we build your confidence? How do we empower you to embrace how your gifts are not going to look the same? They are not going to express the same. You are not going to get confirmation the same way. And if any of you are so stuck that you are brimming with gifts and not using them because you're just absolutely convinced that they are not working, and I'm all for ethical use of gifts. I don't think anybody should be willy-nilly giving predictions. I saw somebody on TikTok the other day being like, oh yeah, you're going to get a divorce and then somebody's going to die. And I was like, oh my God, that's awful. And that's, we have free will. So that person doesn't have to get a divorce if they don't want to. But she was telling them you should divorce them and whatnot. We're not advocating unethical, willy-nilly, just practicing, but we also need to get in a space where we're able to be brave enough to be wrong, and then get the feedback and figure out really how to hone and how to sharpen. Because just like anything else in life, I say all the time, 10 years ago, I decided that other people's opinions of me were none of my business, would actually be really helpful to my life. And that was the philosophy I needed to adopt and really let sink in my mindset. It took 5 years till I was kind of really practicing it. And then it took another 2 till I was fully liberated from other people's opinion being any of my, everything takes practice. So you can have all your gifts, you can have a million different systems that you've learned from everywhere, and God knows there's everywhere to learn. But if you've convinced yourself that there's only a couple of good people and they're the ones doing it right, and you're not practicing, it's hard to get that to where it feels like breathing, until it's a habit, until you don't feel like you need an hour to connect. That you understand that the light, the power is in you. Before I go any more into detail, I want to take time to introduce our lovely guest today, who is Nicole Lilith, medium. And if you did not meet her last Saturday, she was on. So, hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Sorry.
I'm so glad to be back.
Yes, we're glad to have you back. I went on an impassioned rant because I feel my Aries moon gets so protective, and so that advocate in me doesn't want people to not be using their gifts. And Nicole is an instance of somebody that I saw her chart and went, oh my goodness, a couple of years ago, I guess now, and I'm so glad that she developed her own ways and is incredibly accurate. I talk all the time about I've had experience with accuracy with her, with humans and with animals, which is kind of awesome. So when we're talking about our gifts, Nicole, are you good sharing? Like, how do you when you are getting information, how does it come in for you? And then I'll talk about how it comes in for me.
Oh, it all depends. Sometimes I'll get an image. Sometimes I'll hear something, see something. I get songs. That's usually how it is for me.
So when you say hear something or see something, that's what I want to really talk about today, because I remember having a conversation with my metaphysical friend years ago, and I'm like, I don't know that I have anything but claircognizance, which is, for the people who have claircognizance, that is clear knowing.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is for me.
Okay. So it's a little harder to not second guess yourself when you have that. I used to, and I've said this before, so apologies if anyone's heard this before. But I used to walk into all of my metaphysical groups online and be like, "Hi, I'm Suzzy. I have clear envy," because I had in my personal life, and I don't know if you all know this, but in my personal life, lousy with seers, clairaudience, clairvoyance, people who could literally read other people's minds verbatim, because I know that they have done it. They had done it to me, and I didn't even know that they had gifts. My whole life has been surrounded by, but well before I was practicing or even thought about practicing. So this is it's a really interesting subject to me, because I would say to my one friend, well, I don't see. And she's like, but you see clips of things, like you see imagery. So where I always thought like seeing meant like you had to see, for me, if I'm feeling the energy of somebody, I'm going to get a description as per my knowledge of the world, the movies, the TVs, clips, anything that I have been privy to, because that is the only way spirit can communicate with me. They can't show me something I don't know. It wouldn't make sense to me. I wouldn't know how to translate it to you. Other people will actually see detailed descriptions of your crossed over loved ones or your right now loved ones. I had a lovely subscriber, Colleen, one time tell me that she was so afraid to practice. And I was like, well, you can tell me what you see now. We can, go over our session and you can tell me what you see now. And just, I'll be honest. And I was, you're not asking me to pay you. And she literally described somebody that's in my life now standing behind me in like a supportive, and even the way that they said when they hug you, they look like this. And that's exactly how they hug me, because they're like mad taller than me. And it's almost a joke. So like bringing through people, and that was somebody who thought they could not read very well. And that wasn't even a crossed over person. That was, so everybody is going to see different. And I say constantly to these people, like, I can't do what Nicole does. I cannot do what Connie Joe does. Connie Joe and I, and I think you all know the lovely Connie Joe Skywalker, but it's ConnieJoeSkywalker.com in case you don't. And our skill sets, even our concentration in astrology itself, are a little different. Even our perspectives in astrology itself are mostly the same, but our personalities and our placements and our life experience being different, still give a slightly different lens. That's what astrology is about. But our gifts are not at all the same, which is why when we work together, when we do the dual sessions, it's so interesting, because then we have all of the gifts between us, right? But I don't even get information like other claircognizant, other clairsentient people. So when you say see, Nicole, because I know that you really feel quite a bit too, but you're accurate. So like when you told me about Sadie's eyes, how does that come in?
I more felt her. I try to like put myself in her position. So I it just more felt like she didn't know the difference between, what a pea head was and what the rug was.
Right.
It's it's a little bit difficult to explain.
Right. But and that's wonderful that you're saying that right now. But the thing is like even though you may not be able to market that, explain it exactly or try to make it still accurate and it's still a gift. Um does anyone okay, so I'm reading the chat here. And Nicole, please jump in when if you feel like you see anything that was like, oh my God, that was me, 2 years ago or whatever. One of the things that somebody said here is their biggest block is not trusting themselves.
Yeah. And with my Capricorn moon, like if I don't know that I'm right about something, it's so hard for me to say it out loud. So that took me so long to get over. It is still not easy.
Yeah. And it's funny because I can say it's my Virgo, you can say it's your Capricorn moon, but
Yeah.
any person who has gifts and feels really connected and ethical around their gifts will have that same sensation because I just had a reading. I feel like I've been having two, if not three readings a week lately, at least 6 or 7 a month, where somebody is talking about how they are, and I can see and hear and feel both in chart and in spirit that they are very gifted. And it's the fear of giving somebody the wrong advice. And that is what will keep you ethical, quite frankly. But, being a clear conduit is hard because often, let's just say this. Let's just say the quiet part out loud. Often spiritual people, whew, we have been through it, right? Somebody said to me yesterday, I feel like every time I go to a place where I'm supposed to like take another class or practice or whatever, there's some like incredible obstacle. And I said, that's not a deterrent. That's probably confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to myth bust, and maybe we could,
Let's do it.
before we go into like how the gifts can express different, right? I want to myth bust because I feel like that is important. Oh, that's a Connie Joe. So one is that there's some kind of rush to get your gifts in. There's no I promise you your gifts will come in, and a lot of times if you're like, okay, I think my gifts are in and they're kind of in, but they're not in like this person's and they're not in like that person. Listen, I have friends in my real life that could like boop, 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 dial in your crossed over loved one like it ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Like, I'm so jealous of that. I cannot do that, right? But there are things going on in my life that might be overwhelming for me. I had a little taste last month of something that happened in my home. Connie Joe knows about it. Nicole knows about it. Very few people. But like, when that portal opens, it's open. Sometimes your gifts, if you're looking for mediumship or you're looking for like, the angels to come down in a chorus and give you the message and say your name, that's all beautiful. And does that happen for some people? Sure.
Maybe.
Sure, right. And I mean, there are people who say, like, I swear to God, I think I'm crazy, but it looked like this figure that looked like, Jesus. Or you have people say, like, Archangel Michael comes to them all the time. okay, there are people that I know that say things like that are also accurate.
Yep.
Right? So does that seem like my very Gemini brain, like my gifts are not going to probably come through? Like, oh, that way? Because the pragmatism in me between my Virgo and my Gemini is like that. So, that is not how my gifts are going to come through. But if you're waiting for like somebody's crossed over loved one to come to you in the flesh, in front of you, like you are Oda May in Ghost, that might not happen that way.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And also, once a portal is open, which is how I started this, it's open, people.
Yeah.
That means those unless you know how to, spirit will hold back for your own good. Gifts that you're not ready for, not because you're not ready, because you didn't do enough personal development work. Myth number 2, there is this like, oh, your gifts will come in when you're ready, because you're not ready yet. And it sounds like an insult, especially for those who are like like, I'm bleeding, I'm like, what else do I need to do? I am examining, I am letting go of ego, I've had fights with family, friends, breakups, I've changed my life, I am embracing everything, I am doing the inner child healing. How the fuck, quite frankly, am I not ready? And what it just means is, until you know how to walk into a room with 20 other people and not feel all of their pain at once, you might not get your gifts. Until there's like a development of self-protection, and until that you are flowing in all of this so well that they're not worried that you're getting having visits in the middle of the night, like, that are terrifying. If you've ever had sleep paralysis in a spiritual way, it's not fun. If you've ever had something visit you because you have a million of these guys in your bedroom, I keep telling everybody, get these out of your bedroom. Wherever you sleep, get them out. Yeah. No. Right. Okay. But because that is a third eye activator. Don't work in your sleep. Rest in your sleep. Right? It's already hard enough. You could have none of that stuff in your bedroom and you will see seers and everything. We all have circles under our eyes, because it's astro travel and all the other stuff. We're doing spiritual work. We're doing spiritual recovery. We're doing our own personal, soul's recovery in our sleep. But like, when portals are open. And so that whole you're not ready is not at all a commentary on whether you're doing the work or not. Quite frankly, I know people who have gifts, and we've all seen people who have gifts on TikTok or YouTube that are maybe not people that we would go to for like the best friend advice. Right? People are still struggling. No one has to be perfect. And you can't be fully healed. You will heal until the day you die. Our souls are incredibly rich, complex entities that travel through lifetimes and existences to experience anyone that thinks that they could experience all that life could let you experience in one lifetime, let alone heal anything that comes up during those experiences, is maybe listening to the wrong people. You are going to heal until the day you die. You're going to self-actualize until the day that you die. I love Lori Rivers. She's an astrologer. And that was kind of one of the ways that we bonded, because she would be like, and guess what? You don't self-actualize and then it's all done by the time you're 30 or 40 or 50. You're going to do that. And I was like, yes, yes. It's a journey. right? We wouldn't have ever had a next lifetime or a last lifetime if we'd figured it all out in one lifetime. So you're not going to do that. And so don't let anyone, that shouldn't be scary, and that shouldn't be an insult to anybody. That should feel like liberation when I say that, so that you can take that off of your checklist. You can take that off of the anticipation of perfection, which is often anticlimactic, as I like to say. The perfection is not on the list, not this lifetime, not any lifetime.
I agree.
Yeah, so we are people who are in spiritual work. Everybody has gifts that they can develop, but people who are in spiritual work are often people who have been through it and have when I started this, I've lived in 3 different states since I started this in a shorter amount of time than I would. I've been in and out of the hospital. I've lost a parent. Like, nothing was stable. Somebody was like, everything is just, there's so many disruptions. I was like, that's probably because they're getting you ready to make sure that you want to do this through the other challenges that will come. You will have upgrades. You will have other challenges. Universe will grow you, and when you have signaled, I want my gifts, which is the signal that you really want into this fully, you're gonna get other challenges. Spiritual people are not immune to more healing. They're not immune to processing trauma just because of how they know what it should look like and how it should work. And astrologers are not immune to transits. We're all still finding out through our bumps and bruises are what makes this beautiful. But that whole "you're not ready yet" is because a portal that's open for source is what we think of, but when the portal's open for all kinds of energies. And that's not to say it's scary. There could be non-scary folk, non-scary people in this life, in your life, that have a lot of pain that they hide. And if you don't know how to distinguish and discern your energy from somebody else's energy, you could be carrying around stuff that you don't mean to carry around. What is your...
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please, yeah.
I want to apply to it. Until I had the reading with you, and you told me, you're like, you're psychic as fuck, right? Like,
those were probably my words.
Said that, yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is, after I kind of processed, like a bowling ball came off of me. Didn't realize I was carrying around everybody's emotions every single place I went. I used to hate going to the grocery store, hate going to Target, anywhere, the gas station, because I just didn't realize that what I was picking up on.
I had a session for a young person. I had a parent-child. I love doing parent-child sessions. By the way, astrology and metaphysics is the most underutilized tool in parenting that we have.
Yep.
Because you should be parenting your children different, not having a whole, this is how this house runs. Let's raise your hand if you felt unheard, unseen, not understood, and that you have toxic memories of your child when the overall theme is, this is how this house works. People don't work. People are individuals, and we don't hear, communicate, think, feel, perceive all the same. So the same message is not going to, the same rules. Yeah. So, but anyway, I was doing a parent-child session with an extremely gifted kid that technically was still a kid, but holy crap. The wisdom, I don't think this younger generation is coming in with as much amnesia. I could have almost adult conversation. She was so brilliant. She was also very unaware. She kind of knew that she could connect with people, but she didn't know why that she had to tune out in public places, right? So having that conversation with mom, like, she's not trying to disconnect from you all when you're having family time in a large restaurant or at an amusement park or someplace. She's trying to disconnect from all of the other energy. She has to kind of shut down because it feels too much. That's such a huge point that Nicole brought up. One of the most talented, gifted people I know said that for a while they couldn't go into malls. And I'm talking about in the 80s and 90s when, like, that was what you did when there was nothing else to do. Everybody was there. Everything was there. You had the arcade and the import alley. we didn't go. Yeah. And none of us had cars. So, one person had a car. So you all piled and went to the mall. But, like, that was very devastating for her social life. She could not say yes when everybody's like, hey, we're going to the mall. So obviously, I think a lot of the people on here are probably aware of their gifts. But if you're watching this as a replay viewer, thank you. But also, if that is why you feel like you've been called antisocial or you've had to leave baby showers, events where people were insulted. Let's not even just talk about malls and restaurants, right? And maybe people around you feel like, you're being antisocial or rude, or you're not connecting with the people. If you've ever been at a social event where you genuinely might love everybody that's there, but it's just too much. I mean, I know somebody who's gifted, but so right brain logical, that they would never consider their gifts to be real. That was just a hard block for them. And we would constantly try to have this conversation that, like, quantum physics is spirituality. It's all the same thing. It's molecular. It's energy. And I promise you, in 10 years, when I say that and people are like, you're just trying to justify. I've had somebody, you're trying to justify this woo-woo shit you do with saying, it's just like quantum physics. Watch in 10 years if that's not just like everybody's like, oh yeah, duh. So anyway, but she was not comfortable accepting the idea that she had gifts. But then I felt so bad for her because if she had to leave a baby shower or a bridal shower or a bachelorette party or whatever, it was like, oh, maybe she doesn't want to be around us. I knew the whole group of friends, and it was a constant thing. And I felt so bad for her. One, because I feel like if she had just embraced her gifts, but it was a lot harder then. We're talking about like 10, 15 years ago. She could have been more at peace and not been hating on herself for being an antisocial bitch, which is what she was told and what we are told again and again and again and again. We can start to believe about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been accused of being rude when I retreat. So now, if anyone has felt that, I want you to think about when you are so envious of, you see a medium online who can tap into like portals, energies, people who can read Akashic records, people who do past life stuff. Kira, who used to work with Connie, Joe, and I over at the other channel, she was like 20 something. And could see past lives, had mediumship, all of it. Very young. I think she was like a year younger. She was in between my two kids. So she wasn't even as old. And she used to say like, oh, you're my spiritual mom. I think sadly she's not even practicing anymore, because the minute she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for a living without anyone around her all the time, and not having, it was hard. And I think that a lot of us experience gifts as kids and we go, sometimes I think, oh my God, what my gifts would have been if I didn't shut them down when I was 7 or 8, because they effing terrified me. And I probably would have been institutionalized somewhere, if I'm being really super honest. And teenage years were hard enough, without feeling, ostracized for another thing on the list. Um, so when we're talking about all of that energy that we bring in, that we feel, imagine that in portals with people who have crossed over with other entities. And again, so when somebody tells you you're not ready, maybe they don't know what that means either, but like your gifts will come in exactly when they're supposed to. You're not late. You're not doing it wrong, right?
Right. Yeah.
You would have visited me and snuck me out. Um, I snuck out on my own. I was a roof jumper. This sweet angelic person, yeah, I was a roof jumper. I was a bad girl. Because I was just looking for my people, and if my people were doing sketchy shit at 2:00 in the morning, then that's where my people were, and I needed to be there too, because I had such a feeling of rejection, abandonment, like, I could not fit in anywhere. Black Lilith,
Black Lilith.
Yeah. So, which is now my empowerment. Now I let people, instead of me trying to kill myself to be okay for the other people. But yeah. Oh yeah. I was braver than I should have been and lucky to be here. Let's put it that way. But let's stay on track because I digress often. Do you want to speak to that, Nicole? Like the whole thing about, don't try to rush. And I said this when I talked about developing your gifts and spiritual hygiene. People say, like, I just want it all now. Please know that, like, there's other stuff that has to come with you having, like, full access to all portals and all energies that you don't want to ask for all at once, I feel like.
I don't even know how to reply to that. I mean, I guess I was just wanted to try to figure out the easiest possible way, like how Spirit was trying to communicate with me. Not necessarily like, oh, I want all my gifts right now. It was more like, oh, I just wish that I knew what they were trying to tell me.
So when I talk about like Neptune in Capricorn or Saturn in Pisces, what I often refer to is this dichotomy, this kind of like balance. And I'll even talk about like, I kind of like Capricorn and Pisces together sometimes, depending on the placements, because Pisces really benefits from the grounding and the goal-oriented achievements of Capricorn, to their incredible dreams, the way that they can think outside the box, and that Neptunian nebulous energy of Pisces, and the same, and Capricorn really benefits from the escapism, which they already kind of want. So that little bit, they are, I keep being shown like little pressure valves. So they both know how to like relieve the pressure of what it feels like to be in a lot of that either Capricorn or Pisces energy, which really means that Saturn or like Neptunian energy is what I'm specifically talking about. I feel like the grounding practices and how, our lives can't be perfect, but that inner stability, because we cannot control external environmental stability, right? Like we have daily proof of that. If we could all control our external, right? But what we can have some agency over is our internal. So do you find like, even if you go to channel, what do? We clear, right? We ground, we breathe. Do you find that helps you bring in the messages, and that before you were doing those practices, when you were feeling all the energy of other people?
I don't really Well, I like to clear and stuff, but I don't really have to do that. I have to trust myself.
Okay, so there it is. See? So now, so that's so interesting because I always like take that moment. Nicole knows, Kanye Joe goes before we go live, knows before we go live. We just do a little meditation. We clear, we ground, we call back the power. The things that if you didn't watch the spiritual hygiene developing your gifts video, it was a couple of weeks ago. But like for some people, that feeling like they're grounded helps them feel like I'm here in the 3D, the 5D is where the source is at, and so now both ends are like fully connected. For other people, they don't need that. Nicole, where? Yeah. Do you want to tell everybody what your Pisces? Yeah, you mentioned your moon.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a Pisces sun, and I have Black Moon Lilith. They're both at 8 degrees.
Yeah. So so she's got that Pisces Neptunian energy. I only have the North Node and one asteroid in Pisces. So like but I have stuff in the 12th house. But she's got that Pisces energy. So that connection, don't forget those cotton candy walls, which makes you all sometimes have to really establish your boundaries. It doesn't come naturally. You're of course capable of anything. Don't let anyone, I swear I'm going to do a series that'll probably be like shorts. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you have a placement that is not there to be developed. Every placement is a challenge that is meant to be met for your inner peace, for your best life ever. If you have a placement, it doesn't mean you are doomed, destined, fated, or stuck with anything. So that Pisces energy that can sometimes needs to work more. Like it needs to be a conscious decision to make boundaries. It doesn't come naturally. But the cotton candy walls, as I like to call them, kind of comes in handy then when it comes to channeling, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly how you explained it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So the myth is that you want all of it at once and that there's something wrong with you, or there's a part that won't ever be developed if your gifts aren't fully portal open to everything. I have been told time and time again that I have mediumship abilities from people over years now, right? And I don't I don't feel like if that is true, and not that I don't believe those people, but it's that time is not now. And I had a really interesting conversation with one of the most insanely talented mediums they get messages for the collective, for the month, and their stuff is just their accuracy rate is nuts. And they said, if you get them, I don't know that you'll do full-time mediumship. You'll have some of them, but it's not for a few years because there's some other stuff that has to happen first with you personally. And that makes sense to me. Also, to me, I have a clear mission. It's advocacy, empowerment. When I say that, it's hard not to get emotional because it feels so molecularly, soulfully ingrained in me. And I'll tell you what, mediums are incredible, and everyone knows that there's a crossed over loved one that they want to connect with. And, not every medium charges $1 gazillion and is 2 years to get into. But mediumship would be tempting not to do full time. I would be so busy. How would I do anything else? So I'm okay. There was a time when I was like, well, if that's going to happen, let me let it happen now. And part of that, I think, is because I needed to prove to myself that all of this was real. And how else can you confirm more than anything else than speaking to somebody and giving them descriptions about a loved one that you would have no clue, no idea who they are, and getting that confirmation and going, oh my God, right? That was so specific.
I got that there a lot too. Yeah. Not being right. It's always.
Well, and that's exactly it. But like, you know, if you're feeling like your gifts aren't strong enough because you don't have full mediumship, if you feel like your gifts aren't, Connie Joe can hear somebody say something verbatim in their dialect, in their accent, in their tone of voice, in their affectation. I didn't know her more than a couple of weeks, and she heard somebody in my life say something exactly how they would say it. And she saw the inside of their house in a state she had never stepped foot in, let alone knowing this person or knowing where they live. I can't do that. I cannot do that.
I haven't been able to do that yet.
Right. So like she has her gifts. Her Sag moon also help her and protect her. Sometimes I feel overprotective of her, and she is just like, I don't have to tell you, that warm peach pie, right? She is so sweet and wants to see the best in everyone, and part of that kind of facilitates the seer and the hearer and the remote viewing and everything. Connie Joe is amazing, right? So, but let's think about it. Like I want to pick up the rock. Like we giggle when we do videos together, right? Because I'm like, she's like, I just love this. And I was like, well, there's this aspect of it, right? Because she is just like, look at this beautiful rock. Look at this aspect. Look at the gorgeous, right? There's moss growing on the rock. It's so pretty. And I'm like, let's take the rock and pick it up and see what's crawling underneath it, right? Let's get to the nitty gritty. That's why we work so well as a team, because it's balanced, right? You're going to get both. But that inner, almost built into her chart, that protection that allows her to hear and see. Does everybody get what are you picking up what I'm putting down? That beautiful Sag, wants everyone to win, could facilitate. I think that if I could see and hear everything, I would go nuts, because I can't then jump in and protect everyone from what I can see. I am on TikTok lately and have to block so many people, and that's something Lori was like, Suzzy, you're just gonna have to block them. Because I get nuts with these people going, these are the least lovable signs, these are the most lovable signs. I saw one the other day that was like, oh, if you're, if you're an Aquarius, you're a cold, detached person, and if you're sitting here in my comments telling me that you're lovable, you fucking lying, because you're not lovable. Oh my God. I just about lost my mind.
My Venus Aquarius is going nuts right now.
Right. So you will have protections. You will have all kinds of blocks. Yes, ew. You will have helpers for your gifts in your chart, and you will get what you get when you're ready for it. You get what you get and you don't get upset. The self-doubt of, but I can't do this yet, is a huge stumbling block. Yeah? Do you think that, Nicole? I mean, I know it's hard for me to because you can communicate with pets and with crossed over, and you read tarot, and so
well, I don't know, I feel like if you don't kind of focus on that and you focus more what your mission is or what your soul's calling is, they're just going to naturally come in. Because the more you're trying to grasp for it, it's like it's further out of reach. At least that's how it feels for me.
Right. So that's a perfect way. And this conversation is perfect because Nicole and I get our gifts completely different. She has a different experience with it. So I don't want you all to think like, well, Suzzy says blah, blah, blah. So that's when I'll know my gifts are in. Suzzy says this. I don't want Suzzy says. I want you to know that like Nicole, who's accurate and ethical and very, very gifted and has abilities I don't have, feels it, perceives it in a different way. That is the whole point of this live.
Yeah.
And if Connie Joe was on here, she's busy. She says hi. Oh, she was texting. But if Connie Joe was on here, she would absolutely be like, yep. Right. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to share something. Yesterday was 2 years that my mom passed. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to be able to facilitate life threw me on my ass. And instead, I was able, that my 30-year career had ended because of my own health stuff overnight. And I realized I had to like pick up my life and go live with my mom. And I did. And it wasn't as hard as it would have been in any other situation because I already just lost my career to my health. So like there was no, like, I already couldn't do it. So I moved 1,000 miles and I was able to dedicate myself to her. And we were lucky and privileged enough that it was just me and her in a room where I had her favorite music lightly playing and I was holding her hand. And the only machine we had was the pulse ox so that I could have a time. And about 10 minutes after, I called the hospice company. There was no one else. My kids were in another completely different part of the house. But she got to go in her own home. And it was this really, with both of my parents, I promised myself that I would make their crossing over as beautiful as I could to honor the love, right? So.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
My dad died 20 years ago today.
Oh, so I didn't realize we both had parents that in a similar time period. Like, I mean, I knew you lost your dad. I didn't realize they were a day apart. So I was talking to Connie Joe yesterday, as we do, and she said, I feel like you're going to hear from your mom. Have you heard from her yet? And my first reaction was like, Connie Joe, my love, you're so beautiful. Like, but I don't hear like I won't hear from her. Like, I feel her around me all the time. We like joke like she's still here, right? Yeah. I swear to God, I can feel her or I can hear her voice, but I don't hear her. It's like a recording of a sentence. Like if I'm teasing my daughter, I'll leave her alone, right? Because that was in any argument between any of my kids and myself, she's going to take their side. Leave them alone. Your kids are so good. You don't even deserve them, right? So like I can know what she's going to say, or I can almost like faintly like hear a giggle, but she doesn't come to me and like tell me things, or I don't hear her in the way a clairaudient person may hear her. But Connie just said, I just have a feeling there's going to be laughter today, but I feel like you're going to hear from her. And of course, I'm thinking, there's my beautiful friend, soul sister, Connie Joe, who just wants me to, like, she heard me say to her, I don't, that's okay. I don't expect it. I don't hear that way. It won't happen. And she still was saying, I think you'll hear from her. And I just went, okay, love. Right? Because I know that she just wants me to. She wants me to have that moment. I don't want to say what, because it feels a little private. But something happened about 2 hours after that conversation, maybe 3, at the time that my mom died. My mom died. I knew what time it was because it was just the two of us, right? And so like I was in charge. We weren't in the hospital. There was no other people there. I was in charge of putting the time for the death certificate and all that other stuff. So I know what time she died. And I had ordered something, and as I'm talking to my daughter, and if I wasn't texting my daughter at the time about something kind of random, it wouldn't have had this person's last name. All of a sudden, we were interacting randomly with somebody that had my mom's name and last initial. And my mom spelt her name like her name was spelt a certain way. It's a fairly common name, but she had the more rare spelling of it. And it was her name exactly. and our last initial, her maiden name. My maiden name. And it was just like, I never see that. And this is something I deal with all the time. And we get the same people all the time. Never saw this person before, whatever. Right at the time she died. Yeah. So Connie Jo said, you're going to hear from her. And I thought to myself right away, even though I believe in like everybody does things different. No, I won't. Because I don't have gifts that way, and that's okay. I've made my peace with it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, her name says hi and wants you to know you can message anytime if you need something. We're getting groceries.
Wow, that's cool.
It was my mom's name and a message saying I can message her anytime I want. At the time that she died, on the day that she died. Your messages, your gifts, your communication, you being a conduit to help other people in any way, shape, or form, empower them. Please empower them and don't weaponize your gifts, right? I don't think any of this community would do it. But will come in the way they're supposed to come in, the way that you are supposed to receive them. What is your take on that, Nicole? Have you ever watched somebody else on a platform and think like, oh, I wish I could like do mediumship the way they do? It seems so effortless.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, and I struggle with that a lot. I also feel like they're just going to gradually come in though. Well, not just something specifically, just in general. It's definitely certain things you need to go through. I mean, all the things in my life, if I hadn't gone through everything that I had to deal with up until this point, I know I wouldn't be sitting in front of you. Yeah.
When I tell you that spirit will find the way, it's not about us. Mm-hmm. Spirit will find the way to get you the message. And it's almost like my mom and I had an Aries moon conjunct Chiron in the 7th house. My mom and I loved hard. We fought hard. Yeah. And so almost everything was either I love you more conversation or like, I would agree with you, but you are not correct. It was kind of one or the other. Our moons were in conjunct. She was a Pisces moon. It was almost like I threw down. It was even typical of our relationship. Connie Jo said, you're going to hear from your mom. And I said, no, I won't. And there was nothing my mom and I liked to do better in our lives than prove each other wrong. Or die trying. Or argue trying. That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
So she went, okay, bitch. She showed up on my phone. My daughter and I sat there with our mouths open, just looking each other. She came right out. I sent her the screenshot and said, oh my God. And she came right outside. I was sitting outside. I try to be outside as much as I can yesterday because that's where she would have been. And just sitting at each other with our mouths open. We couldn't even say anything. Like, what? How? So, yeah. Spirit will get you the stuff when it has to get you. I'm curious for, we can talk about karma another video. Mm-hmm. Because Lori and I also bonded on this conversation. It's not what a lot of people, they conflate karma with justice. Those are two different things. So yes. And, people will be like, so what? People see birds every day. There's not a lot of blue jays. I know cardinals are a thing. For me, blue jays are something from childhood. There's not a lot of blue jays in my neighborhood. If I see a blue jay, that's, universe provides. Absolutely. Is there anyone in the chat that would like to ask a question or share what they feel like they're supposed to be doing, or how you might feel like you're doing it wrong. Because I talk to people all the time who go to spiritual groups, and you know, you could be with a bunch of people to that get their gifts in a different way than you do, and you think you're the one that's doing it wrong. Does anybody have any stories or anything or questions they would like to ask? And while I'm waiting for those comments to come in, I just want to remind everybody that if you didn't see last Saturday, we have picked a date. Nicole will be here tomorrow night, Friday the 14th, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and she's going to be doing free readings, whether that's pet communication, a tarot card, connecting with somebody here, mediumship. But that is, so we're going to wait to like ask your questions for that all tomorrow. Now, the way she is picking people, she's not really picking them so much, is that last Saturday, we wanted to give you guys another opportunity before tomorrow. We dropped her link. Lee, are you still hanging out with us? Do you have her link? If you don't, I think I do. If what we're asking for you to just qualify to get on that list is for you to follow her on her socials. I'm about to there we go. Here are her socials. That you go to her link tree and you go follow her socials. Once you do that, you're going to email her, and there's already a you know what, Varying Redbeard, I know you mean to be funny, but you know, it's not, we're here in a professional capacity. It's just not cool to, yeah. The compliments are one thing, that's crossing a line. There's my protective stuff coming out. No one's here this to be propositioned or anything even remotely in that realm. And if that makes me unkind, then that's what people think. But we're both here in a professional capacity. So that's just not, it's not a funny joke. I get that you think that it's funny. It's not funny to us. So that's something maybe for you to self-examine when it's a joke to you, but when it's women that are in a professional capacity, we're not. We're kind of done. It's 2023. We're kind of done dealing with that kind of stuff. So, anyhow, you're going to go follow her. I just dropped her link tree. You're welcome to stay, by the way, in the chat, in the community. There's lots of great contributions. That's just, that part just has to, those are my boundaries, which I don't have a hard time putting down. You could leave. That's a choice. You could stay or you could leave. I'm just letting you know it's constant and it's got to stop. So again, we're going to do Nicole's link right there. I believe he's a good person. That has to stop. Anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it. So you're going to follow Nicole's socials, and then you are going to email her. Her email button is also now on her link tree. So you're going to email her, and please, 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 for the great love of Odin, if you could, I just like saying that. It's from Anchorman. You're going to put the subject matter as your YouTube handle. So this way, she's making a folder, and Friday night when she reads, she's going through the folder of the people who followed. When you write her that email, you can also include a picture of a loved one or a pet you'd like to have her communicate with, but just let her know that you followed whatever socials. And if your name is different, right? If you are like Mushroom Lover and then, your regular name in one and hoop dreams in another. Please let her know who you are so she can check it off. And if you only have one social media or two social, that's fine. That's fine. There's no discrimination.
No.
So you're going to email and you're going to, Real American, to be honest, if your email, I don't know how you're living without your email. When my one email was not working, I created another Gmail. They're free and it takes all of 5 minutes. I can't even imagine the stress if I could not get into my email. I feel for you. Okay. So you can send her pictures. If you sent one email already saying that you followed her and you want to send another email with a picture, just again, include the subject line as your YouTube handle. Because otherwise, I can't even imagine what a nightmare it would be to try to figure out who's who and who she's already given a reading to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
question for you on the same topic, if you're all done.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you feel about synchronicities? Because
like the 444. Like when we were like, wait, we both have that as our.
Because I feel like a lot of the times it's a sign, but I find I used to question myself a lot about that.
So I think synchronicities can be different things to different people. There's angel numbers, but then numerology will tell you the same number means a different thing. You're going to find what resonates for you, just like people's gifts can be different. 444 has a very special meaning because it also has a pragmatic in real life meaning for me too. And it just kept coming up and I'm like, why? Because what the angel number means and what the numerology meaning was for 444, it didn't really make sense, resonate at all. For what was going on in my life. And then all of a sudden I was stopped cold and realized like, oh, that 444 is for something else that I'm not going to share. But it was somebody else's energy coming through. I think synchronicities are just little confirmations to let us know that
was my favorite number too.
And that's Nicole and I went. She was like, "Wait, I just realized, that you're, Suzzy Evolutionary 444." And I know, and we all have like 1111 is just like a universal portal. So, there's the argument where it's going to be 444 twice a day. It's going to be 1111 twice a day. Like those aren't like there's a blue piece of fur on my front porch. That's a sign. We're going to see those. I think if you constantly glance at the clock and those are the same numbers that you're seeing, that's just confirmation. That's a really subtle way. And then until we kind of hone and watch the other video for that, where I talk about like how to have communication with your guides so you can use yourself like the operation guy to get more specific information out of signs. But I think that synchronicities are just really nice confirmations that they see you doing the work and that you're not crazy.
Agree.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, you have 3 emails. I think I have 5 at this point because I have to. Oof. Yes, you'll work on your email later and 444 you see everywhere. Yeah, it's totally worth it. Because then also when any of us are like, I know when Connie Joe runs, like we're using email because, mass texting is annoying when I always say like, yeah, I'll sign up for text for like this company or that company because like I don't mind when they're letting me know something's 20. And then it gets to the point where I'm like, oh, I have a text and I'm looking and I'm like, I don't need the 20% off. I bought that a week ago. So like I always regret doing the whole mass texting thing. When you see the number in random places too, that's very interesting. Like somebody's address or, yeah. How do
Yeah,
you
and
feel about synchronicities?
well, at first, it I was like, I thought I was crazy, and after a while, it's just too apparent. You can't really question it. And it's not like you're looking at the clock all day, but if you glance, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I
You
think
wake
that,
up in
like,
the middle of the night at 333 or
yeah.
whatever it is.
I think it's interesting too. Like, I don't know about anybody else. Like, I think technology, I think spirits are so happy to use technology, quite honestly, because they can manipulate it. I mean, for years before we had technology the way that we do have it now, there was like any kind of paranormal activity would be recorded on an old-fashioned tape recorder because no one could hear it audibly in real time, but you could hear it when it's played back. So for as soon as it was available, spirits played with technology. So, oh, if you could retype it, Karen. Yes, I'm sorry. I think we got sidetracked. With the other situation that I was like, okay, that stops now. So so for me, it's something like on a certain day, I don't know, there's probably 7,000 pictures in my phone. Between all of my phones, I've had Apple devices for 13 years. So my cloud keeps all of the pictures of, oh my God, all of my kids, events, friends, stupid stuff I take pictures of, too many pictures of the cat, every awful selfie, because for every 20 you take, there's one good one.
Then you never delete them.
Right. And then you forget to delete the other 19. Right. So like my phone is brimming with pictures, but my right now, I don't know about anybody else, but like whatever, I don't want to pull it up in case it's but yeah, so like that's me and my niece. It's just randomly, this isn't even exactly a year ago, her face is covered, so but like it'll just randomly show me pictures, and I will find that I will have a number come up that correlates with a certain person, and then Apple is also just randomly showing their picture, and it's not an anniversary of when that picture was taken. I haven't just had conversation. They're not like hooked in with that picture to like texting or anything, you know.
Yeah. And it could be just like your birthday too, like 227 comes up a lot for me.
Right.
Or not even numbers.
Right. But everybody's gifts you're gonna hear and see different. What I don't want you to do is I think spiritual development is incredibly important, and I think groups are really helpful and supportive. What to kind of discern is, I had an amazing client that said she was constantly going to a group and got so discouraged and really upset and almost like a little sad because like it seemed like she was doing it wrong because she was not getting the messages, or she was not seeing or meditating, or this thing wasn't happening for her that was happening to other people when they meditated. And she went home and in her own space used the gifts, in a different way, and all of a sudden realized she was getting messages just a completely different way.
Yeah.
Also, because of how she receives messages and because of how her gifts are, that group energy, sometimes if you're not making sure that you're not accepting any energy that isn't yours, you could be muddled. So you could be much clearer at home. Groups are great. And then for some people, until you get that, like, I'm walking into a room, I don't want, and you can just have that conversation privately. You'll get to a point where you're like, okay, I want to channel now. Okay, I want to be protected now. You can do shortcuts. I mean, you can literally say, Spirit, from now on, if I walk in a room and go, oof, that means protect my energy, so that you don't have to say the intention out loud. You can make shorthand between you and your spirit guides. But until you develop all of that, until you get so comfortable and confident in that, you can be reading other people's energy, and it's feeling like it's gunking up the conduit, and then when you're by yourself, it's boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Some readers would not do well in this capacity, taking in all the energy of the collective, but are incredibly accurate, right?
Yeah. And I think I'm just so used to feeling energy my whole life. This is probably kind of feels like nothing.
Right. If you grew up in a big, loud family,
Yeah.
It depends, you know. And there's no definitives. I shouldn't even say you're definitely going to be. You might not. Speaking in definitives is dangerous for spiritual development. Okay, Karen says, should we have a particular question in mind when doing, let me read the rest of that. When doing tarot readings on YouTube. Okay. So it resonates with more people. Sometimes she feels like the readings you do are unfocused. Okay. That's such an excellent question. So last Saturday when Nicole and I did it, we decided randomly, we did not discuss, am I right? We did not discuss that prior to like,
Oh.
Not at all, right? We randomly decided, like, because of the energy, because of like Neptune and retrograde and clear seeing, that we thought it might be a good idea to talk about what you shouldn't ignore, what you should not ignore if it's coming up, right? So we decided to have a theme. I don't normally have a theme. Whatever comes up, and then I listen to spirit. And I have to tell you, Karen, that I often feel unfocused, unhinged, and like that probably didn't make sense to anybody, and I look like a big fat liar all the time. And then it's almost specifically whenever I feel like a message is meeting with crickets in the live chat, or like it seems too weird to like be right. I've learned not to judge because I'm a conduit, so it's not about me. And that's inadvertently, that is when somebody will leave a comment and be like, oh my God, that exact thing has happened. This was for me.
Same.
I think that if we don't focus on the amount of people that it'll resonate for, I mean, I used to watch Tyler where he would do a reading and 100 people would be like, oh my God. And I thought, wow, you know. That is incredible how they do that. Sorry, did you want to say hi? It's been so long. Oh my God, you can tell which one it is because I'm straining. He was just asking to come up. It is, the hardest thing is to know. I feel that way all the time. My Virgo energy will always kind of tease me with imposter syndrome. I think to keep me humble, to keep that 10th house sun humble, to make sure I'm never like incredibly cocky, because I am incredibly cocky when it comes to like cooking or being funny or winning a debate like with friends in my real life.
As you should.
The capability is there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm mostly joking, but I mean, I have a collection of shirts from people in my life that say things like, thou shall not try me, mood 24/7. I'm not saying I'm never wrong, but I'm always right. I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm never wrong. Like, I have a collection of t-shirts from people in my personal life that are all like funny about, you know, being a little cocky. So like it's possible. So I'm pretty sure my spirits are like, this is where that can't happen, Suzzy. So my imposter syndrome, maybe not the whole world, Nicholas. So, you know, I think we all get that. And that's, I don't have any clairvoyant skills. I'm guessing it's something else. You know, that's going to be a bad decision, bud. Clair cognizance and clair sentience are things that you feel and know, and so you won't get a vision of something, and you won't hear a voice or a sentence or a phrase. Yeah, but You might get that information through like related images.
Yeah, because mine is mostly a knowing. I'm like, where did that information come from?
Right.
So it's hard to delineate too. It's the, I don't know, taking ego out of it.
Right. And that's the thing is the myth that's the most important to bust is that you will be right 90% of the time.
Yeah, and you can't really figure out if you're right until you put it out there.
Oh, absolutely.
The scariest part, or it was for me.
Absolutely. And also I want to say that I feel like the biggest myth, quite frankly, is this idea that if your gifts were working, your life would be perfection. You would choose no bad people. You would make no bad financial mistakes. You would always make the right decision.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right. That's not how that works. So if you feel like if I had gifts, then why would I have just had a bad relationship? That is not how that works. Like, not even a little bit. I don't read for myself. I have Nicole read for me. I have Connie Joe read for me. I will have Lana read for me. And once in a blue moon, I will go to somebody that I am 1,000% sure does not know me from a hole in the wall.
Yeah. I can't read for myself.
Yeah. And Connie Joe will, ask me to pull cards for her. We'll look at each other's astrology, like,
yeah,
even for health stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's like electional astrology, all of that. So the biggest myth is that you think that like if there's a rush, if you try to rush your gifts and then you get discouraged because you feel like you're not doing it right, you may give up. And if you're trying to rush your gifts because you think that it's going to make life just so much easier, it's not. It makes life a little bit more peaceful to know that you're fulfilling your mission. It makes life a little bit more fulfilling. Like you could take a spoon to the way it feels when you've been able to empower. The emails I get from everyone after a reading, or just like, I always feel better when I talk to you. I'm just here for confirmation. Like, you guys are all, you can, I want to teach people to trust themselves. I know that means that eventually you may not feel like you need me at all. Great. Somebody else will. The whole point is to empower you all, right? So like, but that feeling for myself, I always talk about, Phoebe on Friends had an argument with Joey one episode that there's no real good unselfish deed because it makes you feel good. And that's kind of true. Even when I'm like giving away time or giving away sessions, gosh, it feels good. So like, will everything be perfect? No. Will life feel a little bit more fulfilling, a little bit more like it resonates? When I got emotional before and I said, I'm not sure that I would, even if I had mediumship skills, that like my specific niche is supposed to be mediumship. I think that I have a very specific niche for what it's meant for. And you know what? It's not as fancy. It's not as marketable. It's not as lucrative. It's not as a lot of things as like a full-on mediumship would be. And that it just is what it is. But I can't even talk about it without getting emotional because it's so soul fulfilling. It so molecularly resonates.
Right. Yeah.
I have to say that YouTube just recently sent me a thing that said, hey, want to join early? Because I'm so close to that. I'm way over my watch hours. But I'm getting close to that 1,000, but I'm not there yet for subscribers. And so one of the things that I was thinking of doing, and I would like Nicole's thoughts on this, and of course I would love to have her helping other people as well. But I was thinking with any kind of like membership, we could do one membership where I would make it cost a whole bunch, but we could do like a meeting once a month or a couple times a month, depending on time zones, where people would have like a free place to practice. If they didn't want to come in and do like what Nicole or Samantha did, which was like be on YouTube publicly and practicing.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Claircognizance and clairsentience, I've said this a million times, but if you have claircognizant, it's hard because you don't know if you know that. I don't really know a whole lot of people that have claircognizance that aren't just pretty smart people in general, which means you probably have collected a lot of information one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so I always talk about, if you have claircognizance and you want to determine whether something is an acquired knowledge or whether it is a download, I want you to think about that front third eye. That is so up close, buddy. That front third eye, can't step on buttons, as your download section. And I want you to think about whatever your dream library looks like, whether it's old fashioned, whether it's modern, whether it has sculpture or pillars, just like a raccoon. I want you to imagine your dream library, and it's in the back of your head, and you have, whether it's a single door, I don't care if it's a revolving door, or I don't care if they're giant double doors and it has a ladder. I want you to imagine the most perfect library, make it, design it how you want it. The door for that is back here. So you can ask Spirit to give you a sensation or just a visual confirmation. If you're not clairsentient and you're not getting things through sensation, ask it to give you a visual confirmation. If you're clairaudient, ask it to also give you like a little something in your left ear. If it's the back, and which is your stored knowledge, your library of knowledge, or something in your left ear if it's your third eye.
Yeah.
And that's a download. But I always use the library and picture the third eye like an amethyst.
I've never tried that.
Yeah. So that you can determine which one, whether it's a download or whether you just know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your life experiences are going to help you give Spirit the playground, the canvas in which to paint the interpretations.
Totally.
Having bad relationships is your gift. You're really good at it. I mean,
welcome to my world.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would, that could be a group. Like that could be a group.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing is the more you trust yourself and the more that you start to do inner work and self-love. I spoke about this with a client yesterday. Me making prepared breakfasts that are healthy, me grounding my coffee beans and having it so that I just have to turn the little knob in the morning in case I don't have a great night of sleep. That's self-love. And, you know, that is something that you think like, oh, maybe my partner would bring me. If you lay in bed and you're like, I'm so effing tired. I just want a cup of coffee, but I don't want to get up. I just want breakfast. I'm so hungry, but I have no energy. And you think, oh, if I had a partner, they would bring me breakfast in bed. Like if I had a partner, they might make coffee for me and I wouldn't have to. You do that for yourself. Watch how fulfilled your life starts to be by yourself and how little you will compromise who you are. Not compromise like I want to eat this way, they want to eat that way. Compromise, I'm not talking about compromising the things in a relationship that are normal. I mean, compromising who you are as a person and your own needs and your non-negotiables. See how quickly you will not even fathom compromising your non-negotiables once you start giving yourself that self-love. That's a whole other show.
That is.
Yeah. I think most people have been apart. Yeah. I have no imagination visually. That's an excellent thing that I want to touch on. And then I think we're going to take a couple of questions and remind everybody that if they want a reading with Nicole tomorrow, you have to go follow her and drop her an email. And after you follow her, after you follow all the links on her link tree, you can go to the email and make the subject matter your YouTube name, and then include your question and a picture if you want. But you know, Anne says, I have no imagination visually. If you notice, when I see things, I do it with my eyes open. Nicole will often have her hand on her chest and her eyes are closed, and she's kind of, because she's also feeling at the same time. I am like, I'll look up, and you know, you can go watch, there's supposedly a way you can tell if information is coming in or they're thinking of something to say by which direction somebody looks in. Mm-hmm. I think that's like a little harder to clock when people have like, do I have my mirror? Like, I have the reverse image thing here. I don't have it because it makes me nuts to look at myself opposite of how I see myself in a mirror. So I have my camera mirrored. So like, I'm backwards I look like I am in a mirror, but I'm kind of backwards, if that makes sense. Like, and I'm like that on all of my platforms. So it's hard to tell, but you know, I will see something with my eyes open. Let's do this practice now. Can you, with your eyes open or with your eyes closed, pretty quickly visualize a purple apple? I saw this as a spiritual practice years ago, and it blew my mind that not everybody could. I can see it, boom, instantly in my head. A purple apple. And some people are like, no, of course I can't do that. Right? So if you don't imagine things visually, you might feel them. Yeah. Or it might be shown to you. You can see the purple apple. So see, there you go. So then you can't say you have no imagination visually. See, there you go. For anyone who thinks they couldn't see visually, if you just saw the purple apple, guess what? Yes, you can. For you, it's a matte purple. That's interesting. So it's not like a shiny apple. So your brain might be telling you apples aren't purple. So it has to be like a fake or a cloth or plastic or a man-made apple replica. So do you see how, I want you all to comment about how the purple apple, if it can or can't, the visualization of golden light pouring into my head, I can't do that. I think you might be able to. I talk about the golden light and that's probably a different show. I didn't want to talk about all the different ways you can connect today because we would be here for 5 hours. And we have to come back tomorrow, and then I'm back on Saturday, so I don't want you to all be sick of me. But the point is I just wanted to have this. Yes. All right. So Karen is saying her apple is like the kind you would see at a craft store, because her brain is like, that shit ain't real, and we're not buying it. Her protection, right? Now think about that. The same way Connie Joe's Sag moon allows everybody to be people won't do harmful things on purpose, right? Like the way that it allows people to be so kind and so lovely all the time, helps her to like see and hear. And Karen has probably had life experiences where, you know, the brain will do whatever the brain has to do to keep us all safe and as sane as possible. So sometimes that's blocking things out. Sometimes that's an instant protection. Sometimes that's I'm just not going to see that. I'm not going to look under the rock. Sometimes it's sometimes it's I only let people in so far. So somebody else saw the purple apple, but it was not shiny. I'm curious if anybody saw the purple apple. I want to know if you saw the purple apple. Did it look like a regular apple, but just purple? Can you see it on a tree? You can see a purple apple, but it looks like this has to be a man-manufactured apple replica because apples don't come purple and they can't be shiny. That is an indication of you've needed, probably at an early age, to have some kind of protected, your apple went all Andy Warhol, like it couldn't settle. See how interesting this is? And I want to know who saw the apple with their eyes open and who saw the apple with their eyes closed. Who felt the need to close their eyes to see the apple? I want to know if somebody saw the apple hanging on a tree. Like it's just a big old purple apple tree. Okay.
Mine wasn't shiny either.
Yeah, okay. So mine is dark royal purple and it has that little shine on it just in that one little spot. And I can see it easily. Okay, your purple apple is the color of my icon. All by itself, my eyeball. My son made me that graphic. I'm trying to convince him he should just be making graphics because that's the North Star with the Pluto and the seer in the colors that I wanted. But all the webbing in the eye, that's all. That was not Canva created. That was a graphic by somebody who has a graphic art degree. All by herself. It's not on a tree, and your eyes were open. Thank you for that detail. Okay, eyes open, eyes open. This was, I wish we had almost done this in the beginning. I'll have to make sure we timestamp it like that.
Yeah.
Because, so how do you get your purple apple, Nicole?
I tried to keep my nose open, which I could. I tried.
It's okay.
I just wanted to see if I could do it with my eyes open. But yeah, I guess it's easier for me to see stuff with my eyes.
And that's okay, but that's beautiful, right? So like my eyes are open, yours are closed, right? But it's not better to, I can picture my apple like it's a purple apple. Yeah. Like it's an apple, just purple. It's got the little shine on it. My apple is like rich and dark. Let's play these games more. So like, this is what like, so they're asking me if I want to join the, like the creator, whatever it's called on YouTube. And I'm really trying to think, I don't want to haphazardly, first of all, I don't want to create something just so that I have, if there's some kind of membership that costs even 99 cents, I want to make sure that it's, another thing, Laurie Rivers and Laurie Rivers Astrology, Woke Astrology. She's amazing. And you can follow her on TikTok. But one of the other things we agreed on is like, it has to be an energy exchange, right? So like if I am bartering with somebody, it has to be an energy exchange so that it feels right. It doesn't feel off. Like taking advantage of somebody for bartering does not feel like a good energy. It does not feel like that does my soul, my gifts. I'm also somebody who my personal philosophy is, if you start to weaponize your gifts for money, if you start to weaponize your gifts for ego, if you start to weaponize your gifts for any reason.
Or other people's gifts.
Right. All of that, you might not have the accuracy that you used to. It might take time, but I believe that that shows up on people. I've seen it all over with people that I started watching, gosh, 4 or 5 years ago, that really got, when it all blew up, got caught up in the kind of the fame monster of it, that are genuinely, they're not evil people, and they're genuinely talented one way or the other. But like, I just feel like lately their stuff isn't as accurate or as like hitting the mark, right? So, but when we talk about using your, playing these games, using your gifts, all of that, I know that if I make a group, it needs to really be something truly valuable for the people. Again, even if it's like 99 cents a month. So I'm going to come up with something, but I want you all also to tell me when this video is over in the comments, what would you like to see the perks be in a membership? Because I think that we could have a membership where it's a monthly practice group. And obviously I would have to make more than one because people have schedules.
Isn't that the perk?
What?
The group?
Oh, having the group to have, right. But also to have some, like, it's not, to me, it's not a perk if one person who just joined, because people will join, wants to talk about something that we've done twice.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I want to make sure that it's like consistently a tarot class. If I do a tarot class, it'll just be a separate class. So the group, we could have like one membership that's like group practice, once a month. That it wouldn't be live and it wouldn't be for posterity for anyone to watch at any time. It would be private. But anyway, so I'm just looking at your eyes closed. Deep purple looks real. Okay, Jacqueline. So yours is like mine. But look how many people imagined it. Now, I want to say, like, even from a spiritual trauma informed lens, not that I didn't have the need to protect myself, but part of how I protected myself was A, through imagination, B, I did a lot of time waiting for somebody to come protect me. People who learned how to protect themselves early was not waiting for somebody to rescue them, even at the age of 5, might see the purple apple as something that is manufactured replica. Because part of their survival and the way that they trained their brain to think was to suss out anything that was not genuine at a very early age.
Yeah.
Now, that's how their trauma response worked. My trauma response was very different. Oh, Monique, you'll join the group even though you don't have any gifts, just for the great community. Thank you. That's very sweet to say, but I'm sure you do have gifts. They'll come in when they're supposed to come in, and they'll be different and might express differently. Here's the other thing. I think sometimes people's gifts don't come in until they get to that place where they realize you cannot use them on everything. I think when people first get gifts, one of our favorite things to do is to check in on other people's energy. What are they thinking of me? What are they this? What are they that? And, in astrology, part of ethics is consent. And I always say that, like, I don't tap people without consent. And what I mean by that is, like, I've always told my kids, at no point that I am having an exchange with my children, I have huge protections up, not for me, but for my children. I don't try to tap them at all when we're having conversations, because what a terrible existence that would, for them to feel like they don't have privacy from me, from their own private thoughts. They need to process things. They need to have their own private thoughts from even their mom. They will tell me what they want to say, especially the ones in their 20s. They will tell me what they want to tell me and I will ask, and they can say no. And it's not fair for me to go beyond that no, that boundary. How can I teach boundaries and then take it away from people in my life? by tapping them.
Yeah.
No one would feel safe around me.
I'm completely the same way.
Right. But in the beginning, we might not see that because we get so excited, or we're watching other people that don't believe in those boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well, and I didn't have many people that tested out on, so at first I was like, oh, yeah.
Right. So, when we are talking about the kind of the ethics of when do we go into somebody else's energy, it can be addictive to be. What the other thing is whether we're talking about ethics of whether you should tap somebody or not tap. I have my own personal set of rules, because I don't want to lose my gifts. I want them to strengthen.
Right.
And at no point do I want everything revoked because I'm weaponizing them or using them for manipulation to, like, how do you get somebody to do this, that, the other thing for you, or get the answer you want, or pretend that you haven't tapped somebody because you know what they're actually thinking, and then you like, well, I know that you really meant this or said that. I've actually had that done to me because I'm surrounded by people who have gifts in my real life. It's not fun. It's not fun to be on either side of that. And I promise you, if you do that when your gifts come in, you'll hear and see and feel things you don't wanna.
Yeah.
That'll completely disillusion you from your dichotomy with somebody. And instead, that'll happen eventually if it's supposed to. But having it happen like that can really be devastating and actually throw a monkey wrench in because you can shut yourself down out of protection. Oh, I hope that made sense. The other thing is, when you first get your gifts, if you got all of them, you might focus on what other people think of you, what other people are doing, what other people. And the one person that you can empower is yourself. And when you are dealing with a client, as much as they want to know, will this person do this? And will this person get here? And will this person, we can see loose timing, but it's an energetic tennis game, right? So if we lose focus on the sitter, on the client, on the person we're reading for, and all we do is talk about when this other person will do this, when they'll leave this person, when they'll do this, right? When the job will come in. The job doesn't... Manifestation is great. It has to be paired with 3D action. It's a relationship between you and your avatar, your meat suit, your hippocampus, your frontal lobe, all of that. All of that is an incredible, intricate tapestry of decisions and actions, along with the 3D and the manifestations and the guidance from seers. Wanting your gifts to come in, feeling like they're not right, they're not big enough, and then doubting yourself. Hey, Moanne. And then doubting yourself is probably going to be the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, that was mine. You're so used to everything that's mainstream. You think that, well, at least I need to speak for myself. You think that that's supposed to be a certain way, or you should have them all already. I thought, well, whatever my kids are gonna, I already have them all. But they're still developing.
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of still developing because there's as many specialties in spirituality as there is in medicine.
Yeah.
And even within your gifts, think about, obviously you would not go to an OBGYN if you had a heart problem. You would not go to a cardiologist if you wanted to have a baby, right? But at the same time, even with OBGYN, there are specialties. Peritonologists, right? There's like different specialties for everything. For cardiologists, if you're 85, you're not going to go to a pediatric cardiologist. They could probably help you a little bit, but they're not going to specialize. There are so many specialties in spirituality and niches in spirituality. And we can be most powerful when we kind of just, don't have the Claire envy.
Yeah.
And also start to understand that myth that once we have the gifts, we'll be able to know what everybody else is thinking, what's going to happen, and that will make everything better in our lives. One, we should know when we start to external focus too much, I promise that's not helping you. It seems like the magic answer, but I promise you it's counterproductive to be externally focused. That took me, I'm going to be honest, that took me years. And Nicole knows there's a situation in my life now where I'm just like that, I'm, curious, but I'm not, if something comes up, but I'm not obsessed with like the when or the I have to know everything or what is that. I'm less interested in what that person's thinking about me than I am like, are they good? Are they struggling? Right? Because I can't do anything either way. And so, right.
Right.
You missed the purple apple. That's okay. There's no rush for your gifts. The more you relax and just let them happen the way that they're supposed to happen, don't compare yourself. Don't have Claire envy and don't compare yourself. It'll hold you back. Don't have the misconception that once you get gifts, you'll be able to use it to manipulate and control. You could if you wanted to. I promise it's not going to actually help you as a person, your growth, your evolution, and it might not even help you professionally. Eventually, I think that shows itself.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this purple apple thing was very, very interesting. And if you're watching this as a replay viewer, please, please, please leave me a comment about how you saw the purple apple, whether it was like on a tree, whether it's by itself, whether it was manufactured replica, whether it was like just a real apple that was purple, whether you closed your eyes, opened your eyes. I love that one person said it was Andy Warhol and it just kept changing. Like it wouldn't stay purple. That's so interesting. Any last questions before we close? And Nicole, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think the best advice was what you just said. Claire and is what kills. Yeah.
The idea that we're doing it wrong and the fear of being wrong.
That was my biggest thing to overcome. Yeah.
And I'm sure that when you first started, probably one of the first examples I gave you was a session I had years ago where the person was looking for some place to live. And I kept saying Hawaii. And I know that makes no sense. And I kept thinking to myself, like, I know even ethically people don't want people, the mainlanders don't want the native residents, the indigenous to Hawaii are asking people, please don't vacation here and please don't come live here and build anymore and anything else, right? So like it didn't, but I will get this like nagging thing over here if I don't say something that I keep seeing. And then I know it's not my job to gatekeep or judge the information that's coming in, even if I look crazy.
Yeah.
We have to let go of that part, right? So I keep saying to them, I know this doesn't make any sense, but they keep showing me why. We even looked at the relocation astrologically for Hawaii. Didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. And there was another piece of information that she was like, I can't see that happening right now in my life either way. 6 months later, I got a session. I thought I'm never going to see that person again. 6 months later, they're back in my book.
And do you get, like, if you don't say something, like, they'll just keep pushing you until you say it?
Oh, I physically
because
get so they make it very clear. It feels like a pencil in my ear. Now, I don't like saying that because I don't want anybody else to think, oh my God, I don't want to feel like that, right? Because that doesn't come through like for Nicole. And also, I have a really high pain tolerance, so a pencil in my ear feels like annoying. It doesn't feel like it hurts to me because whatever. But this person rebooked, and their husband surprised them with a trip to Hawaii. Yeah. And I saw like a wedding, and at the time that just didn't make sense, and they were renewing. They surprised them with a trip and a vow renewal. Yeah. Vow renewal. Why do I want to call it a vowel renewal? A vow renewal. So at the time, it didn't make sense to me. It certainly didn't make sense to her. And she was like, okay, crazy lady, thank you. And I am so grateful for that client for rebooking, going, yeah, you're not going to, but she said, I was sitting there like on the plane thinking like, I'm going to have to tell Suzzy this happened because we both said like that it makes zero sense. Yeah. So sometimes even the reaction that you will get will not feel like confirmation at the time. You have to let go. You have to let go and be okay with being wrong. You have to let go and be okay with it coming later. And sometimes I don't know anybody that's 100% accurate all the time. You can't use it for yourself. You don't want portals open that you don't know how to control and close. God. You don't want portals open so you have such complete confidence in yourself that if you would to be dealing with something that was stunk, either of this world or not, that you would like be able to handle it in a second. Yep. Everything will come in as they're supposed to. And look at this conversation, right? How different. Or even the conversation between Nicole and I. Does it help her to ground? Nope. Some people are all grounded and really need to work on the light, and the light pushing out of the room and the light pushing out of the house. And that's another, actual strategies and development tools we can talk about in another live. But like, she don't need to do that. She's Pisces. And she also has a Capricorn moon, which already automatically grounds her. So she has the balloon and the balloon weight going all the time. Some of us have the balloon and some of us have the weight, and some of us need to focus on.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Suggestion: how to practice telepathy. We tried transferring to each other colors, picking, right? 1 out of 6, we nailed it. Then we tried fruits, we tried direction. It was not that great. I can't really read Nicole's mind.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that either.
No, and because, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, like, we've been working together on just setting her up with the back end of stuff, right? So we've been spending a lot of time with each other because it takes a lot of time on Zoom to like soup to nuts, start from nothing and be fully professionally launched. There's a lot more to this than you guys see in sessions and YouTube. And I'm sure you know that because life doesn't just happen, right? We all have to work on the little details, the thankless details. But we've been spending a lot of time together. I can't read Anya. Suggestion: how we practice telepathy. You try. And if it's for you, it's for you. And if it's not, I can't read Nicole's mind. I can read her energy. I can read energies around her, but reading her mind is not something I can do. And I have a friend that reads minds quite verbatim. Yeah, and it's uncomfortable. Now, did it challenge me to hold myself to a state of honesty? I could hide in the lie of a casual conversation of that I was fine, or that I didn't really think in a way that, God forbid, even if it wasn't, sometimes I would lie about what I thought or how I felt to somebody to their face. because I was so concerned with whether they liked me or not. I would not risk saying anything that could possibly, because belonging, I already told you I jumped off roofs. I risked my life as a teenager. So did I stop doing that crazy stuff as an adult? Sure, to be likable, to belong. But I certainly was not being completely honest all the time. If it risked somebody liking me, oh my God, the nightmare. I wasn't I wasn't confident. I didn't trust myself. I had more shame than I had self-love.
Big time.
And that's for everyone to process in their own time. I was old by some standards. I talk to 20-year-olds that knock me off. And I say to them, honestly, I was nowhere near where you're at 20. Like, good on you, bruh. Because, like, I was nowhere near that. I took another 2 decades to get there.
Yeah.
So, like, telepathy, in my humble opinion, as somebody who has been surrounded since I am a child, a teenager at least, with people who could read other people, I think it's rare. I think you can pick up energies, and I think that it's a good, telepathy is a good just practice, but I think using it as a litmus test of whether you're gifted or not, or whether you're doing it right or not, is dangerous to teach other people. It's disempowering. That is my humble opinion. Reading energy and reading thoughts is quite, to me, it's quite intrusive, actually. I don't know that Nicole would want to spend all the time with me if she felt like, you know, we get less and less privacy in these days, right? We have less and less privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine not feeling like you could ever be private from your thoughts? I think that's counterproductive to us healing and feeling safe. People need to feel safe before they can heal.
1,000,000%.
You can try it with somebody that you have consent with. Obviously, that group, you have consent. I think it can be disempowering to think that it's always going to work.
And it seems like, I mean, could be a little bit delusional too. Can you actually?
I mean, there are people who can, and that's the thing. Like, it could seem foreign to either one of us, but there are people who can with incredible accuracy.
I believe it.
The last thing I'm going to say is there are people out there who are genuinely gifted. They genuinely mean well. But if no one ever taught them that gifts come in different, they could, with their full chest, tell you, when this happens, it means this. When your gifts come in, you should be able to be telepathic, to be gifted, to be helpful, to be useful to the collective. And they could really feel that and mean that. And they could come off genuine. You will read them as genuine. They may not be full-on grifters. Are there plenty of grifters out there who don't know what the hell they're doing, but will take your money? Sure. But what I want to focus on is the group that truly believes what they're saying, are truly being genuine, are truly gifted. But no one's ever told them that gifts come in different, and not everyone can like nail telepathy or nail visualization or nail clairaudience or have a certain experience while meditating.
Yeah, I never knew that till you told me.
Right. Some people can't do Akashic records or past lives. Some people are better at predictive stuff. And some people are I'm better at seeing somebody's old childhood memories, right? Because we each have our own specialties. And the danger is to let any one person, no matter how genuine or gifted they are, convince you that you're doing it wrong.
If somebody ever told me that, I don't know if I would believe them anyways.
Now you wouldn't, but in the beginning it's really easy. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have a session to run to. We can do a part 2 of this if you like. Please go follow Nicole, and there's her link tree. Go follow her. Go email her. The email button is on that link tree now. And
you.
this way you can be in line for a reading tomorrow night. And if she doesn't get to everybody tomorrow night, then we'll do a part 2 of that also. Thank you for your time, Nicole. Thank you for your time.
Of course.
And we'll see you all tomorrow night. Bye.